Well, it's 5:30, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Monroe County Plan Commission to order. And Ms. Behrman, if you would kindly call the roll.
Sure. Margaret Clements,
Here.
Tron Enright Randolph, not here yet. Bernie Garitas,
Present.
Jeffrey Morris,
Here.
Cheryl Munson,
Here.
Edward Ullman,
Here.
D. Owens.
She is here. I think she's being promoted to panelist
Okay.
Shortly.
I'll jump down to Jerry Pittsford, not present yet. And Julie Thomas, also not present yet.
I do see D. Owens has been promoted to panelist.
So D, are you here? Yes or no? And I'll make note that Julie Thomas has just walked in and still wanting to confirm D. Owens is able to turn camera on and has microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work on that then.
We'll work on that.
Okay, so we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. That's an in-person quorum, and Chris Cockrum from the city is also here as well.
Okay, is there a motion to introduce the evidence?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to introduce the evidence, which is the Monroe County zoning ordinance as adopted and amended, the Monroe County comprehensive plan as adopted and amended, the Monroe County subdivision control ordinance as adopted and amended, the Monroe County Plan Commission rules of procedure as adopted and amended, and the cases that were legally advertised and scheduled for hearing on tonight's agenda.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and call the roll. Margaret
Yes.
Clements?
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph? Not here yet. Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Cheryl Munson?
Yes.
Edward Ullman?
Yes.
D. Owens?
Yes.
Great, gotcha.
Okay.
And Julie Thomas?
I'm here.
All right, that passes 7-0.
Okay, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve this evening's agenda. Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Cheryl Munson?
Yes.
Edward Ullman?
Yes.
D. Owens?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
And Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Again, that passes 7-0.
We have no minutes to approve tonight, and there's no administrative business that's been listed. So we move first to unfinished business, and the first item on the agenda is a rezone 23-1, Lake Lemon Marina rezone from limited business to limited business, final hearing concerning 3.14 acre parcel in Benton Township North, Section 35 at 9554 East North Shore Drive. And I believe Mr. Myers will address any changes to what we've already discussed.
Thank you. Yes, we've heard this one a number of times now. So just as a refresher, this is a zoning map amendment from limited business to limited business with the intention to remove a prior condition of approval from ordinance 2007-48. The petitioner's intention behind the rezone request is to remove the condition of approval related to requiring a shared driveway with the adjacent properties. To remove a condition of approval for a prior rezone petition, a new rezone petition must be submitted, hence this petition request. Ordinance 2007-48, condition of approval number 1 is what we are discussing this evening. It states, access to proposed lots be provided by an ingress-egress easement at the existing petition site entrance or via an easement from another existing driveway cut. No new driveway cuts shall be allowed onto East North Shore Drive. Okay, so since the last time we heard this, I'm going to click through some of these slides to a point here. A lot of these updates you see on the screen in black text you are already aware of. This petition was continued at the May 16th, 2023 Plan Commission hearing to today's date, with the intention of providing Highway Department time to evaluate site distance requirements, whether or not they can be achieved through the removal of additional vegetation. And planning staff met with Highway Department staff during the department coordination meeting on June 12th, 2023. At that meeting, Highway Department staff indicated that a sight line analysis should be performed by a licensed engineer in order to further evaluate whether the removal of more vegetation can improve sight distance in this area. So if we want to discuss any more details of this petition, get you all refamiliarized with it if needed, I can do so, but otherwise I will open to discussion and questions.
Okay, do members of the Plan Commission have questions for Mr. Myers? Mr. Garatas?
Drew, with respect to the meeting on June 12th with the Highway Department, has any effort been done that you know of with the petitioner to contract somebody to take a look at that site distance and demonstrate on paper that it's
Could you
feasible?
speak in the microphone, Mr. Garatas?
I can.
Thank you.
Did you hear that question?
I did.
Okay,
No, I do not believe so.
okay, thanks.
Yes, most of the discussion was whether or not Highway would go out and do that analysis, but it was determined that for further evaluation, the licensed engineer would be necessary.
Thanks.
Are there further questions of staff by members of the Plan Commission? Seeing none, we'll move to the petitioner or the petitioner's representative, and you'll have 15 minutes. I think you're getting accustomed to our little protocol here. And if you would be so kind as to sign in and then state your name, and you'll have 15 minutes. Mr. Werner.
Yeah, hi there. Good evening, commissioners. Seven. All right. It's good to see everyone again. Hope everyone's well. You know, I wanted to add to the vegetation thing. We've looked at it ourselves. I uploaded today for Mr. Myers if he wants to pull up. Lake Lemon Acres also agreed to allow us to cut back vegetation on their property in order to improve the sightline. So if it's a question of going past right of way or anything like that, they've made a commitment. We don't know anybody in the community surrounding us that doesn't support. You haven't in the 3 meetings we've had here haven't had any remonstrance about not tying these driveways together, because as we showed as Lake Lemon Acres, the reason why they would support this, obviously many of their tenants come to our property every single day. They rely on us for basic needs now, like milk and eggs and bread, and so they don't have to drive 25 minutes away to get, you know, basic things like that. They don't want to be crossing residential traffic. They don't want a sidewalk to nowhere that nobody's ever going to use. So this is what we're talking about, a requirement. Also, we wanted to address something we heard in the administrative meeting. We are not the parties that benefited from anything that happened as far as changing the use from what was a campground, which would have been much higher traffic, where there were 2 driveway cuts historically for 70 years, 2 driveway cuts, and a campground with, like, I don't know, something like 20 to 40 campsites was reduced to 2 single-family homes. There's nothing that we can do or have done that will increase traffic to what it used to be. As a matter of fact, we are responding to what the community told us they wanted, bless you, wanted to do. And I pulled up the survey results that my father and I sent to the entire community when we first bought the property. 410 respondents, which is more than 10% of the people that live around the lake, There's about 3,000 to 4,000 responded. The number one thing that they wanted were community events, and a walk-up food service was almost tied. We just started the walk-up food service at the Lighthouse. You know, the store, that was part of it, having beer and wine. We did that, you know. So we're responding to the needs of the community. The traffic issue couldn't possibly get to where it used to be. There aren't additional driveway cuts. The Johnsons are the ones that got the driveway permit, they developed the land into the two single-family homes and then sold it to the Graveleys, representing to them, incredibly representing, based on the permit that they showed the Graveleys, that driveway was permitted according to the county. Again, having no real other way of having notice on that plot at the time, that later on, 7 years later, they were going to be told that they're and I don't agree with the proposition that the $12,000 they spent last year to pave isn't going to be in vain. There are other problems at the site, including a third driveway we haven't really talked about that is on the Graveleys' land. As a matter of fact, it's somehow been allowed all this time. It's clear from us that sightline can be achieved through some cutting back, and it's in the record now that the Lake Lemon Acres supports that and will allow us to cut back whatever we need to cut back. If the highway department won't do it, we'll do it for sure, because we do want it to be safe for the Graveleys. We nearly lost them. They put their house up for sale temporarily, potentially. I think they can speak for themselves, but you know, I think they saw another house, and fortunately they lost the bid for us. We'd like to keep them. We like the Graveleys. They're good neighbors. So I hope it's not this process that's pushing them out. Again, safety-wise, in 7 years, I put it in the record, we looked at the North Shore, the detailed maps, if you look at them, there have not been a single wreck in 7 years. There have been wrecks, many wrecks on North Shore. They all happen at Gray Road, which is a traditional subdivision, and that seems to follow the rules, but somehow there have been multiple wrecks there, and it's Spillway Road, which is just a dangerous blind confluence of two streets. I don't know how something hasn't been done there. Also, the county put high visibility signs on already put a high visibility pedestrian sign right next to the Graveleys driveway, as if that driveway was okay. So there's many indicators that they saw the driveway, it was all right. We placed a high visibility sign that increases the visibility of a car coming from up the hill down. The Graveleys have also put their own reflectors there at the driveway. So we don't feel like safety will be increased by tying them into our driveway, as we've discussed before. So in the interest of not taxing the people that didn't benefit from this, the people that agreed to do all this are not here. The Johnsons, the Shells, and we love the Shells. We're not some investors from afar. We're guys that have been coming to this lake and living around this lake for decades. And we're not some, wealthy investor that can just absorb what's going to cost much more than the bond that we still maintain, which is $42,000. It's right now it's a drag on us being able to do some of the things that the people in the community have asked us to do. We've spent funds dredging out. one thing we had to do from the shells, taking over from the shells, is try to get more slips in. There were 22 more for years than what we were given. And the reason why they couldn't have more is because of the terrible drainage problem. And so adding this driveway will just add back to that drainage problem. We spent nearly $25,000-$30,000 ourselves dredging out just so boats that we already had in there could get out, let alone add back slips. So the idea that we're either increasing traffic over historical levels, we have an Airbnb there. Before that was 4 apartments. For something like 40 years, that was four apartments. We have 1 Airbnb. So what I'm trying to illustrate from you, there's nothing that we are doing or can do that will ever return this site to the historically high traffic levels that it used to be, and nor do we plan to. We just want to serve the people that are there. And the county itself is changing the zoning, radically changing the zoning, in my opinion. If you go to this lake, there's a lake in Indianapolis called Geist Reservoir. I'm sure some of you have probably been there. It's the exact same size as Lake Lemon. Exact same size. You've also been to Monroe, I'm sure some of you. The difference, the reason why Lake Lemon is such a quiet, nice community, safe to drive down the road, safe to boat, is because the zoning didn't allow people to build on less than an acre lot. That's why the lots in this case were exactly 1 acre, because it wasn't even allowed historically. So there are far fewer houses per square acre around this lake than there are in many. And so the county is now changing the zoning from estate residential. That's in the plan, the CDO. They're changing it to where now you will be able to build, and there's a plan to run a sewer line, a city sewer line, all down North Shore, all the way up North Shore from Brown County, all the way up North Shore. We're going to benefit from that because we have 2 septic fields to do what we do. And so what's going to happen is they're going to be more residential. And right now, if you go to Geist, there are lots of restaurants. There's my marina that makes our marina look like, I don't know, like an outhouse, okay, right? You know, like a little tiny speck. There's 1 restaurant. We just are starting some food service. Where are these residents going to go? Now that the county is radically changing the plan for this area. So we're being told that we're increasing traffic, we're trying to, I don't know, profit. Like, I wish this was a hugely profitable enterprise. It's really not. It's something that we love to do. And we're never going to be a marina like the Four Winds or any of those marinas on Geist. We're never going to be able to make that kind of money. We're never going to be able to draw that kind of traffic. But I just wonder, when people are now able to build on less than acre lots around this lake, and it's largely due to the sewer limitations, the septic limitations that are going to be gone once that city sewer runs up and down this street. So we just want to be able to continue operating the way we've been operating, the way the community's asked us to operate, and that no one has shown up here to remonstrate. In fact, all of the nearby neighbors support, including Lake Lemon Acres across the street. So with that, I don't know if you want to take a look? We got 3 minutes left. Would you like to say something? I'm going to turn it over to my partner, my father.
I'm also Stephen Werner, I think you know that, but I'd like to correct one thing he said. He said we'd spent around 30,000 dredging. We actually spent more like 60. He's thinking of the last bill we got, but we had done a first phase and a second phase, and I had a hauling company moving it. So we've invested a lot of money, and we could spend that much more really cleaning the marina out and bring it back to its historical depths, just like the Conservancy District is doing, a major dredging on the lake to bring it back to life. You know, I heard a comment in your admin meeting that we're trying to expand our operation, and we're not. We're historically, the marina, you know, had groceries and food and ice and live bait and all that, and they quit doing it. And they were only open like 9 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. We're open 7 days a week to serve the community and provide what they want. Another thing, one of the reasons the community wants events at our place, the Conservancy shut the beach down. Historically, residents could drive their boats over and park at the beach with their grandkids or their family and enjoy the beach. And when COVID hit, Conservancy shut the beach down to boats, only to walk-in traffic. And I think they learned that their goal was to spread out the walk-in traffic to make it safe for them, but they ended up just getting twice as many people in there. You know, because during COVID, there wasn't any place to go but outdoors. So their intentions are to keep the beach closed to residents with their boats because they're making more money with their walk-in business. So we're the only other property on the lake to serve the residents. We're the only marina. We're the only limited business property. So we're just trying to bring it back to its historical use. And like my son said, there was a lot more activity with campground and all that. We're not trying to overdo anything. You know, I'm there every day. I've been a marina tenant for 14 years. I bought 9.5 acres on North Shore and built a house. And I sold out of my business in Indy because I wanted to be down here on the lake. And I was only working 3 or 4 days a week up there, and would come spend 3 or 4 days at the lake. Now I'm working 7 days now, and I enjoy it. But, you know, we're just trying to, you know, it's I guess, perfect retirement job, trying to build something that the community wants. And that drive, the only thing it's going to do is make it ugly, and in my opinion, make it less safe, because boats, vehicles with boats are going to want to go up that driveway, and then they're going to end up backing out into traffic. You know, we're going to have big asphalt drive across the front of the marina property that doesn't add to safety at all. And the Hammers, if they get a chance to speak, all that runoff coming down Gravely's driveway is going to go straight into their driveway.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Werner. And I have a few administrative items that I need to attend to. Number one, if you would be so kind as to sign in. Number two, let the record reflect that Mr. Enright Randolph arrived shortly after the petitioner's presentation began. And then number three, I need to just correct the record about the CDO. The CDO, the County Development Ordinance, has not passed. And so what you said about the way things are changing, that's still undetermined, Mr. Werner. So I just wanted the record to reflect that. And with that being said, do members of the Plan Commission have any questions for the petitioner? We can move on then to members of the public who are here in favor of this petition. And I'd like to ask staff, there are 5 bubbles on the chat, and I don't know what that's about. So, okay.
Most of it was me
Okay.
trying to get the screen a little larger so we could read
Okay,
things
great.
on there.
Great.
I'll
So-
check for others though.
Thank you. If there are members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition, please come to the podium and sign in, and then you'll have 3 minutes each. That's okay. I hope I know how that
Can't
goes.
see you all. I've got my shades on. Yeah, I just really wanted just to emphasize one point that Steve mentioned here.
I'm sorry, could you please state your name and then?
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
My name's Colin Hamer, and we
Oh,
own
yes,
the
yes,
property
Mr.
where
Hamer.
this driveway is
Yes,
on today. and
yes.
once you talked about moving. Just reiterate one thing. We had pretty much a big storm last Sunday, and what we don't often see with the photographs is the slope of that property. It's downhill. Right now, it sort of comes at an angle. And if you change it, or we're forced to change it to come into the marina road, it's on quite a steep hill, and it's amazing how much water is going to come down. I don't think we've sort of understood that in all of the talkings that we've had, but I just wanted to put that in for the record. Oh, sorry. So again, I think just re-emphasizing the fact that when we get storm rain come, which is quite often, of course, it's pretty bad today, but it's going to be a lot worse if it's coming down there. In addition to the fact that we all believe it's going to be less safe having the traffic coming onto that road.
Okay,
That's really all I have. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Hamer. Is there any other member of the public who would like to speak today? We, of course, have your testimony from before, but you're free to come up and speak for 3 minutes, or if there's anybody on Zoom who would like to speak, please raise your virtual hand, or if you're calling in by phone, press *9 in order to be recognized. So is there anyone who is in opposition to this petition? If so, please come to the podium and sign in, or raise your virtual hand on Zoom, or press *9 on the telephone in order to be recognized. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to members of the Plan Commission for further discussion and a possible motion. So we have in the record a recommendation from Highway that we request that a consultant be hired, an engineer be hired, in order to verify and validate the safety of the sight lines. And so that has, been suggested. And I'd just like all of us to talk about that and maybe see what we need to do administratively on this case, and whether or not we continue it, or we approve it, or deny it. So those are the three options. Yes, Mr. Enright Randolph.
I just wanted to make a brief comment before I address that we've reviewed this case. So even though I was tardy today, I'm very familiar with the ongoings of this petition. I had kind of, I think, try to create some type of motion that allowed the petitioner to seek independent opinion if they could make that site distance. So I would really, I guess, I was trying to get my hand up. I didn't have an initial question, but understand if the petitioner would like to move in that direction, and if they're willing or able to seek experts' opinion about this, that's going to come with a cost, or would the petitioner rather us move it forward to the Board of Commissioners? That's a question to the petitioner if they would like to address that.
My question would be, would there be a possibility to move it to the commissioners with the understanding that we proved the site distance we would pay for, the answer is about the engineer, and we would be willing to pay an engineer to verify the distances. I would hope that we could move it to the next level as long as that contingency, as long as that an independent engineer can verify that. And like I said, we have the permission of the Lake Lemon Acres to cut on their property too.
Well,
to achieve that.
let me
Yeah.
jump in and just address that. What
Sure.
we're doing is trying to formulate
Yeah.
a recommendation. So I don't want to turn this into kind of a discussion and negotiation.
Sure.
So let me kind of,
Yeah.
it'll be very difficult to gain support from me without kind of understanding kind of what someone expert's opinion is about making the line of sight. So kind of what you were alluding to, if you want support, if you want my support, I would need to kind of know this and know that you could meet that line of sight. There's a number of different motions that we could make, but ultimately, my position is I would like to know this information so I could actually make an informed decision.
Sure.
I'm not going to say I'm definitive on yes or no, depending on what the expert says, but I think that gives me a lot of information to go on. So the question is would you bear the cost of doing that? I understand you would like to move this forward simultaneously, and there could be contingencies to the motion, but I guess I just really want to pare that down to the one question I'm trying to get at.
We would be willing to come back here if we had to with that engineer's report and pay for it, yes. Or we would be happy to do it ahead of the next step. Either way, we will do it. We're here for the long run. We want to get it done the right way. We don't want it to be unsafe. So if you feel like we need to come back with that report, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. If I was to move forward, I wouldn't really have any recommendation to make without kind of that feedback. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Enright Randolph. Ms. Owens, you have your hand raised.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I missed the last meeting. I'm sorry, the meeting where this was discussed with the petitioner. So this may have been said before, but this strikes me as the solution is worse than the problem. And as far as line of sight goes, it would be nice to have a professional engineer do that, yes. But when I was there looking from top to bottom and bottom to top, I think my line of sight is pretty good. And it looked to me to be safe the way it is.
Thank
And
you, Ms.
so
Owens.
that's the commentary that I have in respect to what's been said so far.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Any other member of the Plan Commission who would like to speak? Mr. Morris?
Yeah, I agree with both of the comments that have been made, and I've really struggled with this because as I look back, it was clear from the beginning that this was a requirement to tie the driveway into the same drive as the marina. I've been out there, I respect the work of the highway department, but like Ms. Owens just said, it doesn't feel like to me there's a major sight distance problem. I appreciate the petitioner coming forward and saying they had reached out to Lake Lemon Acres about the brush, because that was one of my concerns, that we were talking about clearing brush on somebody else's property. And I was worried we were going to be starting another problem elsewhere. So, the other thing, all the neighbors are in agreement of what the right approach would be. So that's something to take into consideration as well. So I'm honestly still undecided, but these are just some of my thoughts right now.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I think we should hear from Mr. Ayers on highway, because the issue is safety. And you've put a lot of time in evaluating this site, and we'd like to hear from you.
It looks like Lisa Ridge, Highway Director, has her hand raised.
Yes.
And I think Ben has just recently been allowed to speak. He's currently listed as an attendee.
Okay. Ms. Ridge?
Yeah, the only one thing I wanted to add, it was stated by the petitioner that we installed signs for the Gravely driveway. That is not the case. The signs were installed probably through our traffic commission board for the crossing from the campground across the street. So I wanted to make that correction. It was not installed for that driveway. The other issue I wanted to raise, if you, I believe it's, if you measure from the existing driveway to where they're talking about the brush clearing, it goes into a different property owner, not just the Lake Lemon acres. So that would have to be also, mentioned that it goes past their property line too. So I just want to make sure we don't overlook something. And I believe the petitioner also had stated about the driveway that the Johnsons were given. Also, I want to reiterate that that was revoked on the same day that it was issued. So I just want to make sure that how the Johnsons moved forward, we're unaware, but that, again, that mistake was made the exact same day that it was issued once we realized that this was in that deed. So, and I'll let Ben talk a little bit more on that.
Thank you, Ms. Ridge.
Sorry. The only thing that I'll add to that is after that permit was issued, corrected, there was another final plat that was recorded, and you're looking at it on your screen. That is what we're going by right now. Other than that, I have no other comments for this.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers, and thank you so much for all of your work on this. Ms. Owens?
Yeah, I wondered if there aren't alternative solutions like, having a flasher light at that intersection that goes across into the marina and so forth. Something like that, just to give a little bit of extra warning. I don't know if that's possible or even desirable, but it's a thought.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Anyone else? Mr. Garatas?
Okay, I think that the discussion that the highway department and staff had was very helpful. And the petitioner sounds like they're willing to, and I call it willing, it's just good sense to me to go ahead and verify that site distance is adequate. My feeling is I think that we could move this on with a positive recommendation, subject to that study being made to the satisfaction of the highway department. And I think that would cause us, not because I want to shirk the responsibility, but I think that would cause us to be able to not to have it before the planning commission again, because I think we've gotten this to the point with Mr. Schilling's letter and with the June 12th meeting with the highway department and staff, that it is a site distance issue. And I think that there may be an opportunity to improve the site distance in the area if that area is cleaned out. My eye was a little bit different with respect to these, because actually it was her breath of life, I think at our first meeting, that helped me reconsider some of the facts that were brought up. So I appreciate that, Dee. But I think that there's an opportunity to have an engineer look at it, to have the highway department review that and see that it isn't maybe an improved condition than what's there now. So
Is that a motion, Mr.
I can make a
Garatas?
motion
Okay.
if everybody's ready. I didn't know if Lisa had anything to say with respect to that. Not putting you on the spot, Lisa, but as much as I might like to from time to time.
Yeah, I know this has been going on. It's taken up a lot of our time, hours. We're just trying to follow. It's not that we're against the marina. We're just trying to follow something that originated back in 2007. There was a reason for it. There's a reason why it was put into this recorded plat. And I guess, I'm not sure how you move forward. There was an appeal process that was done by Mr. Warner. And then at that appeal hearing, the commissioner denied the driveway permit. So I'm not sure legally at what point you even go, because that kind of goes above me that this was the driveway's already been officially denied through the appeal process, so I'm not sure how that gets overrode or overridden.
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Garatas.
If I asked that question at the administrative meeting, at the beginning of the month, was it the beginning of this month? At the last administrative meeting, and my understanding, and maybe Drew could reiterate, what the status is of that county commissioner's appeal. Because my question is, if the appeal is in place, or if the decision, excuse me, of the appeal is in place, then is it even a relevant discussion to have? And my understanding at the administrative meeting was that it is a relative question to have, but if Drew would maybe speak to that, I think that would be very helpful, because that just may stop in its tracks now.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Okay.
Myers?
Yeah, so to reiterate, there was an appeal made to the Highway Department's denial of a driveway permit by the petitioner. And that appeal, through the Highway Department's process, that appeal goes to the county commissioners. Commissioner Githens heard the appeal and reviewed the information. However, the petitioner did not attend that hearing, and therefore the appeal was denied during the meeting. Whether or not that denial, or excuse me, that reaffirmation of the driveway or the Highway Department's decision goes over the Plan Commission's ability to revoke a prior rezone condition of approval. I do not know. I think that's more of a question for legal. If that's, I'm not confident in the interplay of the two parties in this situation.
Mr. Schilling? I think that was a question for you.
The concern is that there was the appeal that was made for the driveway permit by the petitioner, and that appeal was hence denied by the one of the Board of Commissioners during the appeal process. Does that basically create this petition as, does it make it moot?
I don't believe so. If the zoning condition is removed, then the circumstances have changed out there. If it's proven that the site distance is acceptable, the circumstances have changed, and the original application would be something that could be reconsidered, it seems to me.
Okay, Mr. Garatas.
Okay, I think I can make a motion, and I'll do a much better job. Oops. Mr. Enright's.
Mr. Enright Randolph?
And I just wanted to kind of make one final comment, and I really am in support of kind of what Mr. Garatas has laid out for potential motion. One thing I think is very important about getting this opinion from a licensed engineer or whomever could really kind of identify the line of sight is to move it along to the commissioners with more information, so they could make a more informed decision in hopes that if it does meet the line of sight, that it's easy to accept, or if it's just a hair short or what have you not, it just allows them to understand a bit more of what's going on. And I think that's going to be very helpful to get this done, because right now we're just a advisory body making a recommendation. And I just wanted to indicate that I think this is a great compromise that you kind of laid out there, Mr. Garatas.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we forward to the Monroe County Executive Board of Commissioners a positive recommendation based on the findings of fact as found in the staff report, and that because there may be an opportunity to improve the site distance that it is on North Shore Drive, with the condition that the petitioner at his expense can contract an Indiana licensed engineer to provide the necessary documentation to the satisfaction of the Monroe County Highway Department to prove that adequate site distance can be met. And this condition must be met in advance of the Executive Board of Commissioners meeting on this petition.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and please call the roll, Ms. Behrman.
There's been a motion and a second to forward a positive recommendation to the county commissioners based on the findings of fact, staff report, and the hearing. There is one condition of approval, which I might want to confirm, and that is that the petitioner contract an Indiana licensed engineer to prove that site distance can be met and approved by Monroe County Highway Department. This information should be provided before being heard by the county commissioners.
Shall be provided.
Okay. I do want to just have one thought of concern about the timeline. As soon as the Plan Commission makes a recommendation to the commissioners, there is 90 days. They have 90, it has to be heard within 90 days, so that would have to be done before that. All right, I will call the roll. Margaret Clements?
I normally don't speak before I vote, but on this particular case, there are some things that really impressed me by the petitioners. Number one, how involved in your community you are and how deeply you care about your neighbors and how avidly you've worked with them in order to solve shared problems. And that's a very nice thing to see, which also, I think, leads to how important you are to the community in terms of the business and the services that you provide and how wholeheartedly you do that. And even though Highway has recommended against this, you're willing to work with Highway because I'm convinced you're just as concerned about the safety of everyone who visits your property as we are. And so for that reason, I'd like to thank you. This is not an easy process, but I would like to thank you for being here and for making your case to us and for serving the community and going through things the right way. So I'm voting yes, and I want to thank you.
All right, Tron and Wright Randolph.
I guess I need just a bit of clarification. So if they can't prove that they can meet the line of sight and the highway department doesn't support it, is this motion still moving forward to the county commissioners?
It would move forward to the county commissioners and they would be deciding based upon all of the additional information what to do with it.
Would it be moving forward with like a no recommendation? Because it seems like it's contingent to have a positive recommendation if they can meet those things. So if they don't meet those things, what's the recommendation? It's just moving forward, which is fine too. I'm just kind of at a loss of how that's going to play out.
We don't know what the engineer's going to say. So,
right.
So it's neither. It's just a recommendation for further information before it goes to the commission.
Which is the end goal, but with that stipulation, I was a little kind of uncertain how that would play out.
The motion, if I may, the motion is to offer a positive recommendation with that condition of approval. If by the time that this is heard by the county commissioners, that condition of approval cannot be met, that will be articulated by staff during the commissioners meeting and will be part of, I assume, the rationale for that decision by the county commissioners.
Right, and that makes sense. It's just, I was just kind of curious how that would play out. So thank you, Drew. I appreciate that. I vote yes.
All right, Bernie Garatas,
Yes.
Jeffrey Morris,
Yes.
Cheryl Munson,
Yes.
Edward Ullman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
and Julie Thomas.
Yes, and I ask that this be calendared so that they have notice of what their deadline is to bring this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll have 90 days to work with that engineer and resolve any problems and hopefully make Highway happy. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the next case under new business, and that's RD-23-1, North Curry Pike Road, name change to West Hunter Valley Road. And this is a preliminary hearing. Ms. Crecelius, if you would be so kind as to go over this with us.
Absolutely. Okay. So the petitioner for this is the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission and Kreider Inc. Okay, so under Indiana State Statute 36-7-4-405, this gives the authority to the Plan Commission to assign street names and numbers. So this request is a condition of the approval required by the North Park PUD ordinance amendment that we saw earlier this year that was approved by the County Commissioners on April 26, 2023. So the amendment to the North Park ordinance and then the subsequent PUD development plan, the intention is to construct what is called the Hunter Valley Road extension from North Curry Pike, from the intersection of State Road 46 to Hunter Valley Road to the intersection of West Arlington Road. So on your screen, as you can see, there's an area near North Stone Branch Drive and North Curry Pike that crosses a floodway that does not connect to West Hunter Valley Road. So this development plan and North Park ordinance amendment was to adjust the ordinance regulations of the North Park area in order to construct this roadway connection that crosses the floodway. So on your screen is just an overview of the construction. It's approximately 2,500 feet of new roadway. Because there's an area where no roadway exists, a road name change request is required in order to address this area that has no name. So through the conversations of amending the North Park ordinance, we have discussed two options, and I will go over those here. So the first option is to extend North Hunter Valley Road to the intersection of North Curry Pike and State Road 46. The second option, which is what the petitioner is requesting, so the petitioner's representative, let me see, one moment. Where is it? Petitioner's representative. Okay, so the petitioner's representative is Bynum Faneuil and Associates. Specifically, A.J. Willis is the project engineer. So they have requested specifically that West Hunter Valley Road is extended from the new, across the new roadway south past the intersection of 46 to the new roundabouts located at North Curry Pike and West Woodyard Road. So I'm going to be referring to this as option 2. And that would be the yellow arrow on the left side of the image on the screen. Okay, so go over this again. Option 1 would only be extending West Hunter Valley Road to the intersection of 46. And option 2 would be all the way extending Hunter Valley Road to North Curry Pike and West Woodyard Road at the roundabout, option 2. So here's the project engineer's petitioner letter, which is requesting that specifically, the option 2. During the North Park PUD ordinance amendment, we did get some history on the Hunter Valley area from the Monroe County Historic Preservation Board of Review. So this was a letter originally submitted under the ordinance amendment and the development plan petitions. This is a geo-reference map of the historic map that they had included as an exhibit to get an idea of that West Hunter Valley area. So if we have multiple comments from different county departments. So the first is the highway department. We received comment from Lisa Ridge, the highway director, and also Paul Satterley, the highway engineer. They both have included statements about supporting, not necessarily being able to support a full extension option 2 to the roundabouts, but they do offer support of option 1, which is extending West Hunter Valley Road to the intersection at State Road 46. Their arguments have included that there are newly installed signage and that there is existing, kind of confusion for motorists in this area. So the Historic Preservation Board of Review has offered a new comment specifically for the road name change request. They are supportive of option 2, extension of the road name all the way to the roundabout. They state that Hunter Valley holds historical significance and that the direction of the road is more suitable, as they say in these comments. When the North Park PUD ordinance amendment was heard by the county commissioners discussed this road name change, and they included, in that discussion, they included that they desire that the road name change extend all the way to the roundabout at Curry Pike and West Woodyard, so that they are supportive of option 2. And then finally, we did a little bit of analysis to figure out how many addresses might be affected. So the planning department looked into this, and there's minimal addresses along this area. So the first option 1, which is Hunter Valley to the intersection of State Road 46, that would only require 1 address change, which is 3027 North Curry Pike. This is an undeveloped property. And then if the change goes all the way to the roundabout, option 2, it would require 2 addresses to be changed, 3027 undeveloped, and then 2799 North Curry Pike, which is currently a residential property. So I have just a few images here. So the 2 roundabout construction in this area is new enough that we have no aerial imagery to depict this, but I've tried to show it here, and you can see on the right side, Google Maps, what this looks like. So just a few photos. There's quite a bit of signage at the roundabouts in order to direct you where to go. This is looking east at the intersection of State Road 46 and North Curry Pike. This is where it changes to North Curry Pike. Okay, and then at the administrative meeting, the Planning Commission requested that planning staff reach out to a representative of the Curry family. I was able to get a hold of Mr. Joseph Curry, who spoke with Carrie Curry as well. I sent them the information, the packet. They did not express any preference to the 2 options that we are looking at, but they just stated in general that it seems like a minimal section of road and that the bulk of Curry Pike wouldn't be affected, so they really had no opinion. Okay, so finally, planning staff recommends kind of two parts of their recommendation. The first part is that staff recommends denying the petitioner's road name change request from West Hunter Valley Road to North Curry Pike and West Woodyard Road, the roundabout, due to the Monroe County Highway Department reports. Staff recommends approving a road name change from West Hunter Valley Road to North Curry Pike and State Road 46 per the Monroe County Highway Department recommendation. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, Commissioner Thomas?
I don't have a question. I just have a couple comments I'd like to make. I appreciate the Plan Commission hearing this. This is something that the Plan Department raised with us, but it's also something the Board of Commissioners wish that this board would take up. So thank you. First, I would like to note that there is, it is very rare. In fact, this would be a very unique circumstance for me to go against the Highway Department and the Planning Department recommendations. But I understand what the Highway Department is saying about, you know, a road that changes names throughout its course. And, you know, we have the great example of Roar Gordon Fullerton. We have many examples of this throughout the community. There's examples of this in the city of Bloomington as well. I think for me, there are 3 things. First, that the Currys, the family name, are okay with this change. Second, that this is a historical recognition, and for that reason, it's important to do this. And third, that very few people are impacted. There's going to be one residence impacted by this change. Fourth, I would say that the fact that the road changes direction at the roundabout, to me, logistically, it makes the most sense to make this change at this point. So with that, I would ask this Plan Commission to consider approving option 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Are there any other questions of staff? Okay, then I don't see if Dee's hand is raised. I can't see that. Okay, so is the petitioner's representative here and would you like to speak? Or are they online? Okay, are there any members of the public who are wishing to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the podium, raise your virtual hand. Oh, wonderful. It's good to see you today. Please come and sign in and tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, Randy Cassidy, and while I have to echo some of Julie's things that she indicated in regards to the aspect of history, what we're looking at in this particular valley and the limestone heritage of which we have. And the aspect, while again, I trust Highway immensely in regards to what they do from a professional standpoint. But on the road name, taking into consideration where we're looking to extend this up to Arlington Road, bring it through the valley and bring it across. The road that changes at the roundabout should not create major disharmony in regards to individuals, their homes. It's a few businesses are going to have to change off that, but what it does, it signifies as we take it through the valley what our community has from a heritage standpoint. It's a road name that also indicates from where we come. So it's important that we honor those. And I do agree, based upon Fullerton, Aurora, the changes that occurred, TAP, TAP and Winslow, that there are some things, but that also helps to keep the creative character of our community what it is. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cassidy. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this petition? Okay, so if this is coming back to us, and it's there's been no request for the waiver of the final hearing. I don't know if we can automatically waive the final hearing or, pardon me?
I don't know why we would. We're not waiting on more information.
But they didn't request it.
There's no need to have a final hearing.
It's in the staff report that there's a waiver of final hearing. It just didn't make it onto the agenda. Our apologies.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, that would be lovely. I just didn't know if notice requirements were made or if there would be anything that we're violating. So if there's further discussion and or a motion, we could theoretically dispense with this tonight. So
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion for RD 23-1, approving the road name change from West Hunter Valley Road, west-southwest to the intersection roundabout at North Curry Pike and West Woodyard Road, despite the recommendations of the Highway Department, sadly, but with the recommendation of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Are you requesting a waiver?
Yes, and waiving final hearing.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve a road name change from West Hunter Valley Road, west-southwest, to North Curry Pike and West Woodyard Road. The request due to the Monroe, despite the Monroe County Highway Department's reports, actually. So this would take it all the way to the roundabout. I'll go ahead and call the roll. Bernie Garitas. Yes. Jeffrey Morris.
Yes.
Cheryl Munson.
Yes.
Edward Ullman.
Yes.
Dee Owens.
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes?
And Tron Enright Randolph.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Cassidy. We're moving on to the second item under new business, SMN-22-8, Zykes Road Minor Subdivision Preliminary Plat. This is the preliminary hearing, although a waiver of the final hearing has been requested, and there's also a request for a sidewalk waiver. With that being said, Mr. Smith, hi. If you would go over this with us.
Yeah. So the request specifically is the preliminary plat to subdivide one approximate 98.57 parcel into 4 lots with a specific sidewalk waiver request, and then also a waiver of the final hearing. Because this is nearly 100 acres, dividing it into 4 lots means that they're going to be quite large. So every lot is at least going to be 20 acres. And nearly every lot is going to be at least 10 acres of buildable area.
I see.
So regarding the sidewalk waiver, designated community classification triggers sidewalks according to Chapter 856-40A sidewalks. While in a designated community, it is not in a designated growth area, which is the Smithville-Sanders area. The topography and dense vegetation makes installation of sidewalks difficult for this area. There are no adjacent sidewalks to the petition site, roughly within a 1-mile radius. If sidewalks were to be placed, it would be approximately 1,400 feet of construction needed unless the waiver is granted. In order to do so, it requires the removal of trees that currently add character to the area, and staff believes that practical difficulties have been demonstrated. Another concern with this site are the sinkhole conservancy areas. So there are many sinkholes on this parcel. Designated sinkhole conservancy areas are included on the plat, and then total buildable area has been factored in. It factors in the sinkholes as well. So you would still, if this were to pass, it would still have, it would exceed the amount of required buildable area. And each lot, again, it exceeds the minimum 1 acre buildable area requirement. The 2018 Monroe County Transportation Alternatives Plan does not identify South Sykes Road as priority road. So this is another piece of evidence that would demonstrate the sidewalk waiver being a positive recommendation. These are the site conditions and location maps. So there is an approximate floodway that runs through this parcel, but again, due to the extensive acreage, this would not be a problem for buildable area. The Plat Committee voted on March 16th, 2023 to send a positive recommendation to the Plan Commission, 3-0. And then on your screen, you'll see the plat as it is currently. There are, as I said, a lot of sinkholes on this area. They've been delineated on the plat. These are some site photos that were taken by members of staff. I'll just leave them on the screen for just a brief moment. This is what pretty much the entire property looks like. And then the roadway in the top left part of the screen is Zykes Road. So that gives you kind of an idea of what the road looks like and the conditions. Okay. So staff does recommend approval of the minor subdivision based on findings that the proposed preliminary plat meets the subdivision control ordinance, and of course is subject to the MS4 coordinator and the highway department's reports. We do request that the surveyor locate the proposed septic locations on the plat, that due to the extensiveness of the CARS features, that all MS4 coordinator comments have been addressed, and the surveyor illustrate the preserved street trees per Chapter 856-43. Staff also recommends approval of the sidewalk waiver request based on the findings. And then as a reminder to the Plan Commission members that there is a request to waive the final hearing.
Well, thank you for that excellent synthesis of all the issues on this property and for this petition. So do members of the Plan Commission have questions for Mr. Smith? Yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you again for the great presentation. Will the planning department assist with identifying buildable area for the petitioner?
It's already on the preliminary plat.
Okay,
And
I guess I can't read it. Sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to pull that back up and maybe try to mouse over it. It's I would say it's kind of wider.
I zoomed in and it's harder to read than.
Yeah,
easier.
so I think the surveyor has the total acreage for the lot, and then it is really hard to see, but there's really tiny text here that says total buildable area.
Okay.
It has the acreage number.
Can you show me where the buildable area is on lot 2? That's the one that's the most problematic, I think. I assume it's in that flag.
Yeah, so if you can see, Julie,
I
this
can see your mouse. Yep.
Okay. This is the 15% slope line that's been delineated, and then of course these are the karst features.
Right.
So everything that's outside of these lines is a buildable area.
Okay. So they have enough acreage because these are such large lots to do this. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the last question I have is that the issue with the driveway was resolved from lot 2, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for staff? We'll move on now to the petition. Oh, Mr. Ullman, do you have a question? Okay, we'll move on to the petitioner, the petitioner's representative. If you would like to address the Plan Commission and talk about what you're doing, or you're free to, and you don't
Todd
have
Borgman.
to. I see Mr. Borgman. Yes, he has his hand raised. Mr. Borgman, please, I think you're unmuted, so we look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, I would like to thank the planning staff for their recommended approval for this. It's been about 18 months trying to get everything ready to go on this one, but I appreciate their patience and their support. And moving forward, yes, the driveways, Ben and I have agreed on the driveways, and that's been taken care of. And I know that they have three edits that they want made, and we have no problem going along with those and finishing those off as well.
Thank you, Mr. Borgman. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this petition or against this petition? If so, please come to the podium, raise your virtual hand, or press *9 on your telephone to be recognized. If we see no one, we come back to members of the Plan Commission for further discussion and/or a motion.
I could make a motion. So I move for case SMN-22-8 that we approve the subdivision based on the finding that the proposed preliminary plat meets the subdivision control ordinance with the following edits. 1, surveyor locate the proposed septic locations on the preliminary plat. 2, surveyor addresses MS4 coordinator comments. 3, surveyor to illustrate location of preserved or planted trees per chapter 856-43. I also recommend approval of the sidewalk waiver based on the findings and recommend approval of the waiver of final hearing.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Great.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. A vote in favor is a vote to approve the Zykes Road Minor Subdivision Preliminary Plat. Also, the sidewalk waiver request and the waiver of final hearing. And this does include 3 conditions of approval as found in the staff report and read off in the motion. I'll go ahead and call the roll. Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Cheryl Mutson?
Yes.
Edward Ullman?
Yep.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
And Bernie Garitas? Yes. Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, and before we adjourn, are there any reports from planning, Ms. Behrman?
No, there are not.
Okay, and Mr. Schilling, do you have any reports? Is there a motion to adjourn
So
or any
moved.
objections? Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for your good work tonight.